Today, I'm going to share with you a color palette that I put together involving Benjamin Moore's Gray Mist. This is a color we recently reviewed on Hue Review, our color review show, which you can check out in the cards up top or in the description down below if you want more details on this color specifically. But if you already watched that video, you're probably here to see what other colors I would put around it. And not only am I going to give you a color palette, I'm going to give you a Paint People palette pyramid, which is essentially our way of putting colors together, starting with the main color at the very, very top, some support colors down below, and then our finishing colors, which can really accentuate certain parts of your home. So if that sounds exciting, I'm James from the Paint People. This is Palette Pyramids, and let's get right into it. Why don't we start with the main color of this palette pyramid, both in name and also in function. Gray Mist is going to be right at the pinnacle of the pyramid as my main color for this video. The reason it's main color worthy to me is the fact that it has a neutral feeling to it that allows it to coexist with a number of different colors. And that's very important when you're using it in your hallways, for example, or your foyer, any part of your home that can connect to other parts of your home. You want to make sure that it's going to play nicely with the other colors that it's connected to. And the fact that Gray Mist has a little bit of a beige aspect to it, it has some gray, kind of a grayish or even a greenish, because there is a touch of a green undertone sort of mixed in that's very pleasant for me to look at. I do love greeny, beigey, neutral colors. They're my favorite. Also, the fact that it's a 72, 73 LRV, so it's not going to feel too dark in any situation. It's sort of in that place lightness wise where I don't think it's going to feel too light or too dark. Although if you have a space in your home that has a ton of natural light, if you're lucky enough to have that, there might be a chance that Gray Mist can feel a little bit passive, how we like to describe as being washed out, meaning the colors that are in it, those beautiful undertones I just described, they're just going to evaporate into nothingness, and it's going to feel extremely just plain white or off-white on the walls. That isn't necessarily a bad thing, because I feel Gray Mist is a neutral, and neutrals, they do a good job at just being kind of there so that the other parts of your home can be accentuated, whether it's your awesome flooring or your accessories or your sweet furniture that you want to feature. Not really a bad thing, but it does reflect a lot of light, which I think is nice and desirable for a lot of people. Just keeping your space nice and airy. So that's your main color, which of course is going to be your default color choice. It's what I usually say is the starting point of any color palette. Assume Gray Mist is going to go everywhere to begin with. Now, once you start going from space to space, from room to room, you can start to brainstorm about the other colors you might want to use. And we got 5 of them right in this video. Starting with the second row, which are your support colors. These are going to be your secondary colors, probably your second most used colors, next to your main color, which will be most used. And the first one I want to mention is going to act as your off-white, which is probably going to be used on your trim, your baseboards, your doors, your ceilings perhaps, and even a room if you wanted something really bright and white. It's Oxford white, which is a wonderful, soft, slightly grayed out white, not really warm, not very cool either. It's just kind of a grayed out feeling white, but it still has quite a bit of brightness with an 87 LRV. And that's going to give you a nice noticeable difference between your trim and your walls, which are Gray Mist. You have like more than a 10 LRV point difference, which I think is kind of my bare minimum when it comes to just having nice contrast. And then my second support color is going to be another wall option. So if Gray Mist wasn't really doing it for you in a specific part of your home, maybe your family room, let's say, perhaps you wanted something a little bit warmer, but still quite light, I would recommend Spanish white. Now this color, at first glance, has some similarities to Gray Mist, although that gray aspect is kind of removed, and you just have this really passive, warm, lovely, creamy beige. So a little more, I would say, traditional feeling in the sense that those beige colors, they were very popular before, but now gray has sort of come back. But what I love implementing most is a balance. So you have some gray, you have some beige. It just gives you 2 different feelings, 2 different vibes, if you will, in different spaces. And I think Spanish white just has that added bit of warmth, not really any of that green undertone that Gray Mist has sometimes. It just gives you a color that has this lovely, bright, cozy, happy feeling. Why don't we talk about our 3 finishing colors? So if you've seen our videos before, you're probably a subscriber, which is very appreciated from me. This third row acts as your accent colors. So even though there's the most options in this row, it doesn't mean you have to use all of them. You can kind of pick and choose your favorite for a particular space. Sometimes you can sort of mix 2 in the same room, but I usually recommend just going with 1 as your accent color, whether it is on an accent wall or maybe just an accent room you really want to feature, or even a piece of furniture or just accessories. I picked these three colors to go interchangeably with Gray Mist. So if you wanted one year, the next year you can switch to the other one, and vice versa. Starting with Clarksville Gray. So this color is kind of on the neutral sort of bandwagon, I would say, but really there is a decent dose of green in this one. Way more than Gray Mist, absolutely. It has a khaki coloration to me, so it's a bit of a warm gray, a little bit of tan as well, and then that green to just give it that color hue that is quite clear. This one has a 40 LRV just below it, so much darker than the other colors we've talked about, but still feels a little more lively because of that warm aspect to it. It has that green, it has a little bit of that tan, I think, happening. That just pushes it away from a cooler leaning gray. Kind of like our next finishing color, which is called Castle Walls. This is definitely a cooler leaning gray, but I think it's so cool that it actually does feel a little more like a teal, like a combination of blue and green. Very similar level of depth compared to Clarksville Gray, but now you don't have that tan khaki feeling. This one has like a slate gray blue that is just very rich and I think soothing. Not so much a cozy vibe. This one's more like sleek and tranquil. I might have used something very similar myself, but I digress. And then the third color is going to be the darkest by far. It has just under an 8 LRV, so it's only reflecting 8% of the light that hits it. And it's called Deep River. Now this color almost feels like a charcoal green. So definitely sticking with that green theme alongside Gray Mist. And I could be biased because I do love green, but I gave you three different options. One that's a little more warm and vibrant, a really cool blue leaning one, and then you have this one. It's like a dark jungle green, I think. It's really interesting. In some cases, in some lighting conditions, you may not see the green very much. It might just seem like a charcoal gray in some cases, but the green's there. It's just extremely densely saturated. So here's the palette pyramid all together. Please let me know what you think about it. And if you wanted a more in-depth look at Gray Mist, you can check out a review on it over here. And then also more palette pyramids are right down here. Enjoy.